I ain't doing nothing without a lawyer. Then I'll have to check your bag after I take you to the station. Zeke Franklin, I'm arresting you for possession of illegal substances in a public building. You have the right to remain silent. Run away, JJ. No one wants you here. No one will miss you. Run away. Zia, what are you doing in my office? What are you doing with my late aunt's diary? Mom, I'm so sorry. Don't apologize, Max. You did nothing wrong. Are you okay? No, I'm not okay. I'm not okay at all. It took you long enough. Mrs. Dorval, do you know your husband to be a violent man? No, I do not. You've never seen him lash out aggressively with you or anyone else in your family? Never. The day that Mr. Isidore Russo said that your husband beat him up, did you hear your husband raise his voice at all? I didn't. No further questions. Mrs. Dorval, I know that you told the court that you didn't hear your husband raise his voice at my client, but is it a possibility that he could have raised his voice at my client and you just didn't hear? I didn't hear it. But is it possible that you wouldn't hear it if he was? Who knows? Is that an answer, Mrs. Dorval? It's not a question I can say yes or no to. I'll accept a maybe. Mrs. Dorval, did you see your husband come back inside after my client left her house? I was speaking with my daughter, so I didn't even hear him come in. Funny. It sounds like you were hard of hearing that day. Objection. Your Honor, she's badgering the witness. Sustained. Tread lightly, Miss Drake. My apologies, Your Honor. Mrs. Dorval, your husband claimed that he ended the conversation with my client by walking back inside. Why do you think it took you a while to see your husband when he was inside? I can imagine that he was cooling off. You could imagine, huh? I guess that means you could also imagine that your husband was extremely angry that day. Angry enough to put his hands on someone? Ben, it's not what it looks like. What exactly does it look like, Dr. Burke? How does it look like having Elvira's diary in your possession? It's gonna be okay, Max. Is it? Of course it will. Clearly someone in the DA's office doesn't know what they're doing. I'll have it handled. Someone at the office isn't afraid of you, Mom. They had me arrested at school. I've never been so embarrassed in my life. My face is probably all over the internet. How am I even gonna have a future in the family company after this? If your grandfather decides that you're not worthy to run the company someday, then he's a bigger fool than I thought. I promise you, Max, once your name is cleared, this will all be a distant memory. What if Nono has no other choice but to make sure that Alan runs the company someday? What do you mean? What if I go to prison for this? Max, listen to me. You're not going to prison. There's no way a jury would be stupid enough to convict you. Is it true, Zeke? Did those drugs belong to you? Did you get me a lawyer? Did you honestly just ignore my question? Besides, don't you realize how expensive a lawyer is? Do you really expect me to pay all that money for a lawyer if you're guilty? Is that what you've been doing when you've been out all those times of the day? Selling drugs? It ain't none of your business where I spend time, Quinn. That don't mean I'm selling drugs. None of my business? I'm your guardian. You're my sister, not my mom. No legal title will change that. No, I'm not your mom because our mother ended up in prison, which is why I've been doing my best to watch over you. Is that where you want to be? You want to end up just like her? Objection. This is speculation. I'll rephrase my question. The day that my client alleges your husband angrily battered him, is it fair to say that your husband was angry that day? He was angry, but he had every right to be. No further questions. Mr. Dorval, did your son seem aggressively angry when Mr. Russo showed up at the house? No. Did you also notice any bruising on your son's hands when Mr. Russo left? I did not see any. No further questions. Mr. Dorval, why did your son ask you to go back inside when Mr. Russo arrived? He had to speak with him alone. Are you sure that's it? Are you sure he didn't ask you to go back inside so that you wouldn't have to see him beating up my client because he knew that he couldn't contain his anger? Objection. Once again, Ms. Drake is making speculations. Okay, do you know if your son has boxing gloves? Yes. How come? He has a punching bag in the house. A punching bag? Sounds like someone who needs to let out a lot of frustration. He liked boxing ever since he was a little boy. Jeremiah always had boxing gloves. Do you think that he could have used those same sort of boxing gloves to attack my client? Objection. No further questions. Funny, you've gone silent again. There's only one reason why you would have Elvira's diary. There's a lot that Elvira knew about me, which I couldn't let anyone know. That's not the reason I was thinking of, Dr. Burke. I feel like you have this diary because you had something to do with my aunt's passing. I didn't do anything to Elvira. Then spill. Why do you have her diary? Make sure everyone enters the office on the dot. It baffles my mind that there is one idiot working under me. Come in, Mrs. Russo. Mr. Grant, this isn't the time I said that I would be meeting with the ADAs. I know, but I came to let you know that there's no reason to have a team meeting. Oh really? How come? Because I know exactly who pressed charges on your son. Do you? Please tell me. I'm dying to know what sort of uneducated assistant district attorney felt like they could build a case against my child. I am. I asked you if you got a lawyer. Clearly I ain't trying to go to jail. Then why were drugs found in your bag? Don't you understand that you're stepping on dangerous ground here? Not only is your life in danger, but so is your future. CPS can take you away. How would you like living in foster care for the next couple of years? Would you even believe me if I tell you how they ended up in my bag? Just give it a shot. Look, I don't know how they got in there. Please don't try to tell me that they appeared out of the blue or just magically hopped into your bag. You know that ain't what happened. Clearly someone put them in there. Do you think that the jury will believe my side of things? I think we presented a good case. After the Thanksgiving holiday, we'll figure out what the jury decides to do. Don't worry, Jeremiah. The jury has to believe your side of things. Even if Isidore and his ex-wife try to make you look like a monster, anyone who is smart will know that they just wanted to make things up. I'll be in touch. You all enjoy the rest of your day. It's kind of hard to enjoy the rest of the day when I'm not 100% sure about what the jury will decide. Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving. Let your requests be made known unto God. Hey Vanessa, is everything okay? No, the buses are about to leave and I can't find JJ anywhere. Okay, I'll start from the beginning. Your great-grandfather Dante was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. I don't remember anyone in my family mentioning anything like that, because he didn't want anyone in your family to know. Most of all, he didn't want the disease to take his life. Just because he didn't want it to end his life didn't mean that it wouldn't. Exactly. He knew that his life would be over anyway, but not by Alzheimer's. So I helped him. Helped him what? Dante set everything up where he hired to make a fake autopsy of his passing. Before he passed away, he gave the coroner hush money to not perform an autopsy on him, so I gave him medicine that would make his heart give out. You took my great-grandfather's life? He didn't want to become a shell of his former self, so the best way to do that was to break the law and help him take his own life instead, without letting his family say goodbye properly? Don't you understand how much his passing broke my great-grandmother? Yes, and that's how your uncle found out. Isidore? He knows? He overheard me apologizing to your great-grandmother when she was in her casket. Isidore heard everything. He was furious with me and I begged him not to say anything. So for over 20 years, he held that over my head. Instead, Elvira found out before she lost her life. From what Isidore told me, she overheard him speaking to me on the phone, and Isidore explained to me that he would make sure that Elvira would keep quiet. When she lost her life, we knew that the police would look at everything, including her diary. So, after Elvira lost her life, Isidore quickly went into Elvira's room to grab her diary and kept it in his room until he handed it to me during the wake to take home. After I married Finnegan and eventually became chief of staff, I kept it here so that no one would find out what I did all those years ago. You've got to believe me, Ben. I had nothing to do with your aunt's passing. It was you? Do you understand how you've messed up my son's life? Pressing charges against Max embarrassed him in front of the entire student body as he was held off in handcuffs. How could you do that to a child? A child who harmed another child. Those accusations are totally baseless. With all due respect, Mrs. Russo, this is why you're not on this case. You're too close to it. I don't have to be too close to a case to still have common sense. Yvette Mitchell's testimony lines up with the evidence which was found. Owen Grant, if you want to have a successful future in this town, then I strongly suggest you drop those charges against my son. I can't do that in good conscience, Mrs. Russo. I also would like to point out that your future is in jeopardy if you plan to fire me because of my decision. Who said anything about firing you? No, Owen. You'll become a laughingstock when my child is found innocent. I'm not trying to secure a conviction to help my career. The reason why I'm in this career is to make sure that justice is served. A young girl needs justice, and I will provide it for her no matter who I make enemies with. You want me to think that someone randomly picked you to take the fall for the drugs? Some people are sick. You're the reporter, you should know that. Look, Quinn, if you don't believe me, then that's on you. If I go down for this and you lose another family member, then that's on you too. What do you mean you can't find JJ anywhere? Kisa? He's nowhere to be found. I even got the principal to ask his teachers. He didn't show up to the rest of his classes. Put her on speaker. Try to calm down, Vanessa. Did they get people searching the school? Yeah, but they can't find him. They checked the bathroom and what, Vanessa? That's where they found his phone, but didn't see him at all. I still don't know what to think, but I'm reading this diary and keeping it. Have you read it? Isidore wouldn't allow me to. Please don't tell Finnegan. I'll keep it to myself as long as you don't tell Isidore about my discovery. Deal?